Arthur Jenkins was an oddity. At the precarious age of 40, standing at the summit between young and old, he was able to say he was content with life. Not quite happy. No, he wouldn't have used that word to describe himself, but content worked. Content. When he breathed in and out, it was to the tune of this one word, content. His quiet, uneventful job and cozy one-bedroom apartment where he hid away on weekends, doing crossword puzzles and reading fantasy novels helped in his contentedness. This was all he'd ever wanted. Best of all, most people just left him alone. He cherished the calm, predictable routine that was his day-to-day life. Of course, all that was about to change. He came to a halt, one foot inside his small, windowless office. What sat behind his desk was unmistakable. He hadn't seen an angel before, but the soft glowing halo and magnificent wings pressing against the low ceiling took away any doubt. Before anyone in the outer office had a chance to see what was inside his, Arthur had stepped inside and closed the door. While he was an excellent employee at Stewart & Son, he was not what would be termed as indispensable. Not at all the type who could have an angel visit during working hours, or even over lunch for that matter. The angel read from a thick leather-bound tome hovering over the desk, not quite pressing down against the potted aloe plant his mother had given him at lunch yesterday. Arthur, who didn't like disturbing the spiders crawling across the walls of his apartment, leaned back against the door, hands folded in front of him. A study of patience, he hoped. He waited long enough to wonder if perhaps the angel had in fact died here as some sort of joke. That had set him to wondering if angels could in fact die, and why he would choose Arthur's desk as a place to do it anyway. If it was a joke, Arthur didn't get it. He itched to peek at his watch, but was afraid that if the angel were not in fact dead, the action might appear impatient, rude even. Behind him, the door rattled under the impact of a sharp double knock. Arthur jumped and spun around, staring at the door. The noise came a second time. He opened it a crack to reveal the unsmiling face of Sidney Stewart, Jr., the son in Stewart & Son. "What are you doing, Artie?" Stewart demanded. "I had to knock twice." Mr. Stewart, Jr. always called him Artie, like Arthur's mother did. It made him feel like a toddler. "Yes, sir. Sorry, sir," Arthur said. I was on the phone." Lying did not come easy to Arthur, breaking into a full-body sweat whenever he tried. He positioned himself in the crack of the doorway, wetness running down his back and sides while trying to appear casual. "What's going on in there?" Stewart's eyes narrowed, and he gave the door a shove. Stumbling back, Arthur watched in horror as his boss strolled into his more crowded-by-the-moment office. Arthur spun toward the desk, hoping the angel had been a figment of his imagination, which would have been strange given that he didn't have one. Still, he would have made an exception if it meant the angel being gone. It wasn't. "What do we have here, Artie?" I can explain." "I doubt it." Arthur knew that was indeed true. How could one explain the presence of an angel in their office, even if that one did know the reason, which he did not? 20 years he'd worked at Stewart & Son, 15 years more than the son. He liked his job, too, enjoyed the world of processes and auditing, appreciated the logic and organization it required. A quiet job where he didn't have to interact with too many people. That was all over now, he knew. You couldn't have your boss barge in on an angel in your office and not expect repercussions. Stewart stormed across the room, frowning, and grabbed the aloe plant from under the angel's book. He stormed back again, stopping in front of Arthur. "No personal plants, Artie. They attract bugs." Arthur's mouth gaped open, closed, then opened again, making him look like a fish thrown onto the floor of a boat. I... Get rid of it, Artie." "Yes, sir. I'll take it home at the end of the day, if that's okay." "I suppose. But you owe me one." "Hey!" He snapped both fingers, sharp cracks that always made Arthur flinch. "I do need someone to work extra hours this weekend." Arthur nodded like a bobblehead, and Stewart grinned. "No overtime pay." Arthur shook his head. Fine. I guess I don't need to mention the plant to Dad, then." Tossing the offending plant to Arthur, his boss left without another word. Arthur followed him to the door, closing it when the other man reached a sufficient distance. "Why do you let him treat you like that?" Arthur jumped at the booming voice filling the room. What? Relax, Arthur, the angel sighed. Have a seat. Arthur stumbled to the extra chair facing his desk, congratulating himself on the presence of mind to not drop where he was. Now that the angel had spoken, Arthur searched his mind for the proper etiquette, wondering if averting his eyes was correct. Would you just look at me, the angel said, exasperated. Arthur looked up from his study of the carpet. Sorry, I'm not used to... Also unsure of the correct terminology, he waved his hand in a way he hoped conveyed his unspoken point. Would you have preferred to find a demon behind your desk instead? Arthur shook his head, assuming that would be worse. I shouldn't think so. They smell terrible. The angel laughed, the sound like a sonic boom shaking the papers on Arthur's desk. That was a joke, Arthur. Arthur forced a smile onto his face. Ouch, that's terrible. You don't have much of a sense of humor, do you? Arthur shook his head, the grimace fading. What a shame. Humor, imagination, and a desire for adventure were the best traits you humans were given. The imagination hadn't shown him more than a few times in Arthur's life, and adventure was for characters in books as far as he was concerned. What he did have was an auditor's soul which liked everything in its place. Why couldn't Mr. Stewart see you? The angel stared until Arthur became uncomfortable under the unblinking gaze. Another dim one, the angel muttered, then said to Arthur, He couldn't see me because I'm here for you. Here for me? Yes. You mean to take me... Arthur pointed upward. The angel glanced at the ceiling, then laughed again. Oh, no, nothing like that. Do I look like the angel of death? Arthur was unsure what the angel of death would look like, but pictured the ghost of Christmas future. Then why are you here? The angel shrugged, knocking a ceiling towel loose. I'm here to answer your prayer. My prayer? Well, wish, really. Prayer, wish, same thing these days. A wish? Arthur's mind whirled through the usual options of money, fame, and power, all of which held no real interest for him. He enjoyed his life the way it was. For once, he wished he did have an imagination, so he could think up a better wish. How long do I have? Arthur asked. For what? To decide my wish. The angel squinted one eye and raised the opposite eyebrow. Arthur took that to mean confusion. You've already wished. Arthur managed to squint one eye but raised both eyebrows, as he always did when he tried to raise one. He looked more surprised than confused. I don't understand, Arthur said, giving up on the facial expression. I don't remember making a wish. Oh, of course, I always forget. The angel rolled his eyes. Humans may have gotten a great imagination, but it's balanced with terrible memory, isn't it? The angel opened his book again, flipping from page to page with a slow, measured ease, like he was absorbing every word of the latest bestseller. Arthur was sure it was all for effect. Yeah, here it is. Arthur Jenkins, aged 9 years, 6 months, and 9 years old! Arthur almost shrieked, then calmed himself when he remembered who he'd been almost shrieking at. The angel didn't notice. After taking the longest, deepest breath in the history of calming breaths, Arthur continued without any noticeable shriek in his voice. You're here to grant a wish I made when I was 9? Yes. He tried to remember any wishes he made when he was a child, but nothing came to mind. What did I wish for? Yes, well, I was getting to that when you started almost shrieking, the angel muttered. Your wish was... Arthur fidgeted in his seat as the angel read the words to himself, then chuckled. To be a barbarian and live a life of adventure. What? This time Arthur did shriek. Well, specifically asked to be Conan, but you can call yourself whatever you like, I suppose. Arthur tried to sit, found he already was, and stood instead. A barbarian? Why would I wish to be a barbarian? It all came back in a sudden blink of memory, and he groaned. 9 years old, and Mike had dragged him to see that movie, the one his mother had forbidden in no uncertain terms. In her mind, barbarians were not the type of people her son should be learning about. She wasn't thrilled about Mike either, calling him the bad influence. But he was Arthur's only friend, so she endured it. Mike had been a bad influence, too, always convincing Arthur to do things he wasn't supposed to. like seeing forbidden movies. The movie had been amazing, though. It filled Arthur's boring soul with a sense of adventure and imagination. All the way home, he dreamed about living the life of a barbarian, an adventurer, a hero. Then, disaster struck. Their next-door neighbor had seen Arthur coming out of the theater and mentioned it to his mother. When Arthur got home, he was greeted by a Class 4 hurricane that sent him to his room without dinner, telling him to think about what he'd done. By morning, his brief flirtation with adventure had become a vivid regret. But before that, he had wished for him and Mike to be barbarian heroes like Conan. The thought of his best friend brought a smile to Arthur's face. He missed Mike. "Arthur?" the angel said, pulling Arthur from his memories. "I don't want that wish anymore." The angel's wings sagged. "Oh, not again." "This has happened before?" "More times than I care to remember, ever since we started fulfilling wishes." "Oh? When was that?" Arthur hoped that if he showed an interest, the angel would leave, a tactic he'd used with bullies back in high school. Hadn't worked then either. 10 years ago, by your concept of time. The angel leaned back in Arthur's chair, a difficult feat with wings. "You see, for a long time we didn't grant wishes at all. We left that to the genies and leprechauns." The angel grinned, and Arthur nodded in what he hoped was a sagely manner. The angel stopped grinning and shook his head. "Anyway, we debated for ages on whether wishes equaled prayers until it was finally decided we would reward the deserving. The wish itself had to be heartfelt, something coming from the depths of the wisher's soul. Now we're pushing those wishes through the system, trying to clear the backlog." "Not to question the way things are done," Arthur said, "but why didn't you just start granting wishes as people made them?" The angel spread his arms, looking upward. "Yes! If someone like this gets it." His focus returned to Arthur. "Excellent idea. Exactly what I suggested, in fact." He sighed. "No one listens to me." Arthur wondered if he'd gone insane, the alternative being that he was in the office talking to an angel about heaven's politics. One angel decided it wouldn't be fair to allow new wishes and not earlier ones. Another agreed. Next thing you know, that's official policy. But isn't that more difficult? Oh, yes. But at least we managed to agree that dead people shouldn't have their wishes granted. Imagine someone who's been dead for years getting their wish for immortality. Right, Arthur agreed, still not comprehending in the least. "Well, I guess you have a lot of wishes to take care of," he added, hoping the angel would take the hint to be on his way. "Oh, more than you can know." The angel settled back into the chair. "Now that we've started catching up to the present, most angels have been reassigned, and those that are left have a daily quota. Very stressful." "Well, I'm sorry that it didn't want my wish," Arthur said, hoping, again, that these would be the right words to end this bizarre encounter. "That's okay," the angel said, getting to his feet, his wings spread to fill the area behind the desk. "Are you ready, then?" "Ready for what?" "Your wish, of course." "But, yes, I know. You don't want your wish, and as I said, that's okay. You don't have to want it." "You can't just grant a wish I don't want." A storm brewed in the angel's eyes. "Yes, I can." "But I like my life the way it is." "That is unfortunate." The angel raised his hands like a magician ready to cast a spell. Arthur's world swam out of focus. "Stop!" Arthur said. The angel dropped his arms, slapping them against his side, and the world popped back to normal. "Look, I know you don't want this, but there's nothing to be done. I have my quota." Arthur considered this. He could appreciate the process and auditing this angel must endure. Then he considered running. "Believe me, Arthur, you're not the first to go through this." "There are others like me?" "Like you? Oh, worse, much worse. One woman, who was extremely unpopular as a child, wished that everybody in class would fall in love with her." "Oh, that's not too bad." "Except she made the wish when she was 10. Okay. Then grew up to be a teacher." "Ah," the angel coughed. "And a nun." "Oh, yes, oh. Now we have 10-year-old boys dreaming lustily about her, and all of them sure they're headed to hell for it. The woman herself is terrified to be alone with any of her students." Maybe you shouldn't grant any more childhood wishes, Arthur said. Good idea. I'll suggest that when I return. Then under his breath, no one will listen. No one ever listens. Wait, Arthur said, an idea coming to him. I won't tell anyone if you don't give me my wish. Oh, no. No. I won't fall for that one again. You think they don't see? Arthur sagged in defeat. If you don't want the wish, just imagine what Mike's reaction will be. What do you mean? Well, your wish was for you and Mike to be barbarian heroes. He'll have to join you. Arthur frowned. But Mike is dead. Yeah, he will be pissed, the angel paused. Unless he's in hell, I suppose. Arthur considered his friend and thought the chance was about 50-50. Remembering why Mike had been on the brink of expulsion during the last year of high school, and the year he'd spent wearing an ankle bracelet under house arrest. Are you ready to go? The angel asked. Go? Oh, don't start that again. You know the circumstances now. But where am I going? Someplace you can be a barbarian hero. You didn't think you could do that here, did you? The angel let out another booming guffaw that would have shaken the windows if there'd been any. Arthur Jenkins, barbarian process auditor. Well, how do I get my current life back? The angel said, one finger tapping his chin. You could wish for it. Will that work? In about 10 years. Arthur closed his eyes, making the most heartfelt wish he could manage, hoping he did it in a way that would be heard. Ready? The angel asked. No, not really. Close enough. This won't hurt, will it? Arthur asked, slapping sweaty hands over closed eyes. He waited for the angel to do whatever magic it was that angels did. Nothing happened. Nothing changed. Arthur dropped his hands, still afraid to open his eyes, reasoning that as long as they stayed closed and nothing was happening, it wasn't so bad. The thought of passing through life with eyes closed crossed his mind, but he dismissed it as impractical. With a groan, he opened them. Is something